Hey, how you doing?
Hey, Baruch Hashem. How's it going?
Who's that thing? Is this Eliyahu Chaim's personal room?
Yeah, we're sharing a Zoom account,
Good choice.
and this way we can record it so we can save the shirim for whatever.
Lovely.
Yeah. So I took a bunch of notes from the last year, just because I've been a little bit behind. Yeah, how's it going? First off, how you doing?
Yeah, Baruch Hashem, all right. Getting used to this routine. Listening to this odd shiur online and stuff, but it's sort of wasting a bit of time. I got to get some structure in my afternoons. But I'm getting into. I'm working through it all. Good. How about you? Crazy busy still?
On and off. It's been an interesting couple of days. It's been quite intense. I have random days where everyone just seems so off kilter, and like the kids are off, Sarah's off, and there's this vicious cycle of tension, and there's so much stresses to manage, and the day seems to be running ahead of you and you can't seem to be catching up.
Yeah, no, for me it's completely different. I mean, I'm up early, I do my exercises and my reported good, and I'm set.
It's
I'm so
amazing, but yet we still, there's a point where we meet, right? There's a point where there's a part in our, I guess, in our soul, or in the direction where, in a way, we're both heading in the same direction. No, wouldn't you say so?
we're going the right way, I think, yeah. It's interesting, I've been speaking to people and they telling me that a lot of people are struggling with this, with it, not being able to get to shul and shiurim and stuff. A lot of people are gone, I think, quite off balance.
They've built a strong routine around this. They've built a strong routine around their community, which is actually, it hits the topic of our tonight. I don't know if we're going to learn in book, but let's just have like a sort of a discussion here of what it hits the topic spot on what this is about. So just in summarization, the objective right now is to figure out what is Rosh Hashana about. And in a way, it's important to understand that, especially since Rabbeinu says that Kol ha'inyan sheli hu Rosh Hashana, right? Rabbeinu says that what I'm about is Rosh Hashana. And Rabbi Natan goes about explaining what Rosh Hashana is, which will explain to us what Rabbi Nachman is about. And just to tie in to what you were just saying, that a lot of people are struggling, wouldn't you say that the people, essentially the struggle of people, what would you say is the struggle? Like, why is this so hard that they're not going to the shiurim and the community?
They're just struggling to maintain their connection to davening and routine. I don't know, it goes to other life satisfaction and meaning things as well.
Okay, so I see it as there is I think we can all relate to this feeling that when there's a strong sense of discomfort when you're alone with yourself. Not necessarily a fear, but more of you got to stop sort of that inherent pursuit that we have inside of ourselves, and then just face yourself. Don't escape with the movie, don't escape with a book, don't escape with anything else. Just face your own thoughts is something that for most of us is like makes us very uncomfortable. And I would say that I think a lot of people right now are sort of getting to that point where they're getting, like I saw this, someone posted this meme or something. It's like we were told to spend 5 minutes with ourselves, and we said, no way, I'd rather learn how to bake bread from scratch. You know, something along those lines, which is essentially highlights this, which is there is something inherently disturbing to us when we have to face ourselves. Now, obviously, there's different levels of severity for different people. Someone who's a serious Breslover, who's serious about Rabbi Nachman's teachings, probably is more familiar with this feeling than someone.
You and I are probably actually beyond that stage. If I have any discomfort with being with myself at this stage, it's probably that I feel guilt about not being more involved with Torah.
Right. Okay. So it keeps manifesting even as you grow. It keeps manifesting in more advanced levels, right?
Right. Changes.
Yeah, but ultimately let's explore what this is and how this relates to what we are talking about. So just to tie it into the lesson a little bit without getting too complex, we're going to focus on the bottom point of the Aleph, which is, in the words of Rabbeinu, Nekuda Tachtona. The bottom point of the Aleph, Rabbi Natan says, is the entire sphere of the world as we know it, that we are living in, is the bottom point of the Aleph. But that is in an ideal state, right? So we could be, meaning that any life force that we encounter in this world in any way comes from the bottom point of the Aleph. Now we could be even behind that. We cannot even have that, which is most of us. Most of us, we're not even in the Aleph at all. We're outside of the Aleph, altogether, which means we have no existence. We don't really exist. So that would be the equivalent of the moon not having any form of, at the beginning of the month, when the moon has no...
The moon tonight is absolutely brilliant.
Full, yeah.
And it's full. I can see it out the window here. There was a thing on the WhatsApp from the Agudah, and it said that opportunity to make Oseh Maaseh Bereshit is May the 7th, the full moon, super moon. Are you familiar with that?
I am not familiar with that.
This is from Rabbi Lowy, and apparently you can make a bracha on the full moon or the super moon.
Why? What's so special about the moon? Is it like really bright or something?
Yeah, well, it's a full moon tonight.
And you can do on a Oseh Maaseh Bereshit on a full moon?
Apparently, which I've never ever heard of.
Interesting.
Anyway, sorry.
It's interesting.
So when the moon's completely covered, we're nobody. We're nothing.
Right. That's when we're outside of the Aleph. Then, when we enter the Aleph, so once the moon begins to... Right, so the first step in becoming existence is to be a vessel. So first the moon needs to be a moon before the moon can get the light to shine. Right? So if you translate it to us, the first step is first we need to be before we can manifest our being. Right? So the first step of being is essentially what we're going to talk about. How do you be? That's step one. And then how do you manifest what you are being? And what are the common issues we encounter when going through that process? So just off the top of our head, let's just get familiarize ourselves with a few let's just establish a mini lexicon here for discussion's sake. So for starters, we have a few words. Number one, we have damim. Okay, so Rabbeinu says in the lesson, irtichata damim. There is the blood. So how did you understand damim? Like, how did you understand it? What's your take on damim? Like, how do you
Damim
understand Rabbi Nachman's intention?
is a driving force. It's a heat. It's a passion. It's a motivator. Usually used in a negative sense.
Right. Okay. So that's how I understood it as well, and that seems to be the whenever we see the word damim, it's this this pursuit, this energy, this force, this passion, like you said. And okay, another word is dibur. This is a tricky one. What is your understanding of the word dibur when Rabbeinu uses it, or when it's used in the context of our lesson? What does the word dibur mean?
I think he's probably using it as speech, not necessarily holy speech, but as a speech which is a excuse or justification for something that we've done wrong, but we're choosing to maybe not feel shame or guilt about.
So it's the other way around. So the speech is holy. So when the word dibur is used, it's in context of ideal. So the ideal dibur would be. Remember, you mentioned it last time we spoke, where you said that the classification of Adam, is that he speaks, right?
Right, okay.
So what does it mean? Ultimately, dibur means that effective dibur, rather, would be that someone listens to you. Not just hears what you're saying, but truly listens to what you're saying. So effective dibur causes the person on the receiving end to truly take in what you're saying. So whenever we come across the word dibur, we can assume that it's referring to such kind of communication that really bonds people together. When it doesn't take place, when a person speaks and nobody wants to hear him, or it's like, get to the point already type of thing, no, what are you trying to say? That's not dibur. There's something wrong, there's something missing that's causing the dibur not to be real dibur. Okay, so that was damim, we said, and dibur. And we had the nekudat tachtona. Okay, so let's stick with those three, and let's sort of build. Let's just paint here a little bit of a picture of what's going on. Okay, so to summarize the idea here, a person is. We start off in a state where we have no existence. When we have no existence, then a person is incapable of speaking, meaning that he doesn't succeed in saying what he wants to say or in communicating effectively. He doesn't communicate what's happening inside of him to the people outside. There's a lot, he doesn't exist, right? And dibur ultimately is a manifestation of the person's being.
I mean, does it have to be outward or can it be inward as well?
What do you mean?
To be in touch with one's higher faculty, that one can even speak to oneself. because if I'm not speaking to myself, I'm not aware of myself. If I speak to myself with my higher faculty, I'm in touch with a higher part of my Rosh Neshama chain.
So, okay, hold on to that for a second, because I think we're going to address that. So you tell me if we got to that. I think what you're talking about is what I'm going to mention here in a second. So the first step is to try to get to a place where we exist. Now, it's important to remember that we start off in the damim. Okay? So from the perspective of damim, which is a perspective of pursuit, a perspective of going forward, when that perspective, Rabbi Nachmans says, is non-existent, the person doesn't exist. Now, you're telling me a person who, let's say, is a successful businessman, has a Fortune 500 company, has been in the pursuit his entire life, he sees what he's accomplished, he definitely feels like he exists. He definitely feels like he's a boss, like he's on top of the world, whatever, etc., etc. What he feels is from the perspective of damim. From the perspective of damim, he exists. But that's not real existence. That's damim existence. That's existence of the world that we live in. Now, what Rabbi Nachman is trying to get us to is real existence. True existence. Not the copied version or the fake version that it is in this world, which can feel real when we're in it. So we're in a state of damim, which means we have no real existence. And now there's a point within us that recognizes that this existence is not real. It recognizes it. It's a point, and everyone gets it in a different level and to a different degree. Now, to that extent, to that point, we look to change. We look to exist in a more real way, or in a more meaningful way. So what happens is the natural instinct of the person is to take that passion and that pursuit and just change it and point it towards Hashem, or towards what that person would say is more meaningful and is more real.
It's interesting today. I was listening to, I think, that classic Ace talk on the 5 levels of pleasure. The lowest one is physicality. The next one up is love. And we didn't get to the other ones. But this is completely aligned with it, that if you're chasing physicality, that's all you're going to achieve. But there's a higher level of pleasure or meaning or whatever by you carry on now.
Okay, so now the next step that the person would do in the tshuva process, so to speak, is to, in that moment of realization, or as that realization is playing out in his head and his heart, he feels like he needs to do something different. So he takes his damim and he just changes the road he's on, and he puts it onto the road called meaning. He puts it onto a road called Hashem. And that is a problem. And that is essentially what happened was he skipped Rosh Hashana. He skipped what Rabbi Nachman calls the most crucial and essential part of tshuva. Not so much so that Rabbi Nachman says it's so essential that the point that you skipped is the point you should always be in. What is that point? That is the point where so what's happening is the person skipped becoming a vessel. He skipped the part where he existed. He became. He didn't become. So he went from a state of damim, pursuit, passion, And he has a realization, a moment inside of him that tells him there's something about this that's not real. So he recognizes that it's not real. So now he wants to become real, but instead of becoming, instead of having real existence, you take the passion and you point it in the direction of Hashem, which is from the perspective of the passion, it's the highest possible level you can do, right? From the perspective of damim, it's the highest level of damim, because this person can be using this passion to do bad things, blatantly bad things, but he's making it higher. But it's still outside the realm of existence. It's the highest form of passion, but it's still not existing. There's a very important step that needs to take place in order for the person to just exist. The person just needs to exist. When the person exists, only then is he able to receive light. So, like if you look at the moon needs to go into a state where it just becomes a moon. There is a moon, and then it can receive the light from the sun. So this state where essentially you become, you begin to exist, so you can look at this as the creation or the formation of the Nekudat Tachtona. Nekudat Tachtona has sort of two elements to it, which are two contradictory elements, but they coexist. In order for the Nekudat Tachtona to be, a person needs to have these two contradictory elements within him. So we know that the problematic approach is when the damim keeps firing, right? So the damim was never shut off, yet the tshuva process began. So Rabbi Nachman goes and he says, Yikar tshuva yishma bizyono yidom vishtok. He says the main tshuva, the main point here that a person needs is yidom vishtok. Yidom vishtok is essentially the cancellation of the damim. Now, if you're looking at it,
Hamten.
It's totally hamten. But hamten can be seen as a very uncomfortable process, or not. The reason hamten would be an uncomfortable process is from the perspective of damim. So when we're inside damim, where we are damim, most of us, the world around us is damim. It's the entire system we're living in is all damim. From the perspective of damim, to tell me to stop the damim is depression, is sadness. It's on a basic level, it's uncomfortable. On the most minimum level, it's uncomfortable. On depending on who you are, if you're a go-getter, right, and I tell you stop, you can go nuts, right? So depending on how much damim you have, from looking at it from the angle of damim, and I tell you stop the damim, that could just kill you. But that's from the angle of damim. Rabbi Nachman is bringing us to his perspective. The perspective Rabbi was bringing us in is Olam Haba, the real existence. From the real existence, he's telling you to come into the real existence. How do you come into the real existence? By stopping the pursuit. So essentially what the person wants is to keep going. And what we're telling the person is to look inward. To just look inward. Look into yourself. Become aware. So that moment that the person has. There's a moment where he realizes there's something that's not, and if we just to make the point, I'll highlight it even more. So if a person recognizes that he's behaving, there's something about him. He recognizes there's something about him that's not how it's supposed to be. He recognizes that. He doesn't like how that feels, right? So the instinct, the internal drive of the damim causes the person to immediately find a way to to not feel that, right? So switch, get onto another path, change, do tshuva, like stop this. I don't want to be here. So from now on, no, I'm sorry, I'm moving on, right? All that is avoiding the shtika. Rabbi Nachman is telling you, lean into that feeling. Don't try to get rid of that feeling. Don't try to skip that stage and do the tshuva, so to speak. That stage is the most crucial part of tshuva. As you lean into that, what you're doing actually is you're canceling out the damim. You're leaving the whole realm, the whole vicious cycle of damim. You're leaving it. It's a painful process because you're in it. You're in this loop. And the loop tells you, oh no, I don't like how I feel when I just recognize that I did this and I want to switch. I want to do something else. I want to stop feeling like this. It's telling you, no. Don't switch. The switch is to stay in the damim, right? You're just switching it with something loftier, but you're still staying in damim. It's telling you, don't try to switch. Don't do anything. Just be in that moment. Feel that pain. Become aware. Look who you are. Become aware of who you are. Just become aware of that. And that's when you begin to exist. Really. That's how you begin to exist. That is the most crucial step. And that is essentially, he's saying, that is the secret of Rosh Hashana. Rosh Hashana is all about that. Rosh Hashana is all about cultivating that moment. Really leaning into that uncomfortable feeling of, who am I? And you don't like what you see, don't try to change who you are. Don't try to move on and fix and just to avoid feeling who you are. Lean into who you are. Become aware of who you are. Feel the uncomfortable feeling when you become aware of who you are. Feel it. That is the most crucial step of going from a state of damim, which is not real existence, into real existence. With that step, you enter into real existence. And now you've entered into the Nekudat Tachtona. Now you went from not having any connection with the Aleph. You were in Damim. Damim is outside of the realm of Aleph. Right? So that's just Dam. Now you enter Aleph, and now you can become Adam. But to go from Dam to Adam, to go from a place where you are Adam, when you're in the damim and you're in the pursuit, it's crucial to have that moment, not that moment, but to constantly be leaning into that awareness of who you are, as uncomfortable as it is, as how much you don't want to feel it and you don't want to see it, but just to look at yourself and say, and to sort of come to terms with who you are and see who you are and become aware of who you are. That is the most crucial and important step that Rabbi Nachman says, Ikar Tshuva, which is the Ikar Tshuva, the main part, Yishma Bizyono. Yishma Bizyono. You have to listen, and Yidom Vishtok. Yidom Vishtok is essentially the grinding the damim to a halt. And your internal instinct is not going to want to do that because we're so much in the damim. And the more we're in the damim, the harder that step is going to be. And, the entire systems that we're living in is all built around having to avoid that moment. There's all these programs you can do to avoid that moment, and yet you're improving yourself. Rabbi Nachman is saying all that, Rabbeinu tells us, is staying in the realm of damim. We're trying to get out of damim. We're trying to become Adam. And the most crucial step to becoming Adam is to just, first of all, just exist. Right now, you're not existing. So let's just go from not existing to existing. So that's the first element of Nekudat Tachtona, is to exist. Now that a person exists, now the Dibur can take place. And the Dibur that comes from that place is real Dibur. And then that's the second element of the Nekudat Tachtona, the Dibur. That Dibur happens, I would say it happens as part of the process of figuring out. So if you're going through this moment in Hitbodedut, and you're sort of working through this feeling. I mean, you're saying, okay, I'm trying. The dibur here is happening as you sort of tell Hashem what you are going through. You tell Hashem your struggle in going out of the damim and into the silence. You're saying it's hard for me, or you start narrating sort of your experience in doing that. That dibur that you do with Hashem, that creates a real dibur, and that creates Adam. And then you have then you can start receiving the light from the sun. Now there's a channel. Now it has somewhere to go, which is you created a vessel. The light cannot go into the damim, right? So the light is shining. The light is there and it's coming down. But if you're not a vessel, it's not going into you. If you're outside of the realm of the Aleph and the light is existing within the Aleph, and we're in the damim, we're in the pursuit, then the light's not coming into us. So we're sort of missing the light from Hashem. We're missing it because we're in the damim. Even if we're doing tshuva, and even if we're improving ourselves, we're not feeling that. We're not feeling like I'm accomplishing anything. Meanwhile, this guy here, he's successful. He's got his life. He's pursuing earthly material things, and he feels good about himself because he's in the damim. And from the perspective of damim, that's it. He's got what damim has to offer, so to speak. But when you're trying to get the light is not in the realm of damim. So no matter how much you try, you're trying to get a light that's outside of the realm of where we are. So if you're trying to get the light that's outside of the realm, but what we're doing is staying within the habits and the rules of damim, which is pursue, then you're never going to get that light. So to break the cycle, it's crucial to have an element of silence. And that silence is to come face to face with yourself, to come to terms with who you are, to come to terms with how you look, and not to find a way to escape that, and then just feel that uncomfortable feeling, and that's sort of the moment when you switch over and you start to truly exist. And now all these points sort of they happen like simultaneously. These things, it's to understand them, you have to break down the steps to understand what the steps are, but they happen instantaneously within a person's heart and mind in seconds. And I saw clearly where Rabbi Nachmans says that they all are interdependent within each other. That means because there's the nekuda tachtona, which is the vessel, and then there's the nekuda elona, which is ultimately the dot, that's the understanding, or the dot, and then there's the vav that sort of facilitates the transmission of that dot into you. So which happens first, what happens next, it all happens at the same time. But the step that we need to get to even enter that realm is the shtika. And Rabbeinu says that this is a process that's never ending, because no matter how much you come out of the damim, there's still more damim inside of you. And as you actually start coming out of the damim, then you can have a bit of a contrast, and then you can start realizing how much damim you have. When you're full damim, when you're 100% damim, there's nothing to contrast and compare. So you're not even aware that you are damim, because it's who you are, right? You're fully into it. But as you start coming out and you get a taste of what the real existence is like, and then you sort of slide back into the damim, then you can start contrasting and comparing the two states of existence, the damim existence versus the real existence. And each time you diminish the damim another layer, that happens through the process of ishma pizon idon bishtok, and that's a never-ending process. It's not like you can get to a point where you say, I got rid of my damim, I'm good.
Damim, I think we need it. I mean, it's our motivation, it's our drive, but we have to refine it to a higher and higher level.
Exactly, and you're on a physical level, your blood.
But the damim of one level is not the same as the damim of another level. We have to keep, that has to elevate with us. But it's part of the process. It's not something that we get rid of entirely. Otherwise, we've got no drive.
Exactly. So that drive is sort of driving us in the wrong direction. But then we push it into the place that it doesn't want to go, and then it sort of frees us. But then that drive brings us back full circle, and then we're back at the same place. But each time I think your son has this
Right, the spiral.
yeah. So it's that would be a good way to visualize this process of the damim happening again and again. One more point, just in regards to dibur. It was brought up, and I don't know if I fully understood it, but if a person is incapable of listening when a conversation is taking place, that would be an indication that he's incapable of speaking. Or he doesn't have dibur.
I mean, I don't understand the detail of it. I can accept the concept. Maybe at the same point of view on that, it's something that one has to think about a little more deeply. But I mean, I guess it's a point of relatability or of level that you can't be above your level in speaking or hearing. I mean, that they move together. So if you haven't gone up to the spiritual level of being able to listen, you're not going to be at the spiritual level to speak at that level. Or if you haven't gone to the level to speak at that level, you can't listen at that level.
But I think they're one and the same. I don't think they're two things that rise parallel. I think that the ability to listen is essentially a person's level of existence. So when the more you listen, the more you begin to exist. So listening would be like becoming aware, I would say, is listening.
That's understanding. You
Yes.
can't say what you don't understand. You can't understand what you couldn't say. So you obviously up to this point have fully understood what you've been saying because you've expressed it eloquently so that I could understand it with no problem. Maybe only at my level, you may even be speaking about me and I'm only hearing it at my level, but it's certainly fully comprehensible at my level that your dibur is complete at that level for you because you can hear and understand it obviously at that level. Maybe even at a higher level that I'm not at, so I may be missing some of the subtlety.
Right, but the speech itself is very much it's just a manifestation of my understanding. That's ultimately what it is. It's just the outside. It's the shining. It would be the equivalent of the moon shining. That would be speech. But if there's no moon, then all the speech is not shining anything, right? It's just noise. It's not real. It's not actually causing anyone to see anything, right? The purpose of shining a light is to light up something that's dark. So as we listen, we begin to exist, right? The listening is essentially the opposite of the pursuit. The pursuit, you don't have time to listen. I'm busy. I'm rushing. I don't have time to listen. The listening would be the opposite internal direction, right? The direction of pursuit is I have somewhere to go. The direction of listening is I'm become aware of what's happening, which is not, I have nowhere to go. I'm not going. I forget it. There's nothing. I just want to know what's happening, right? So that's more of like an internal, and that creates that's who you are. That's how you become. And when you become, then you have speech. Then you have dibur, real dibur. And I found that I had to undo a little bit of what I know when we use speech. Like I have a certain definition of speech and dibur that I got used to, and I realized that it's different here because here we're talking about dibur proper, right? Real, like dibur that really impacts or that really is effective. We're not just talking about dibur, looks like dibur, and that is. So yeah, that's more or less, I would say, a summarization of
Yeah,
a summarization of
that's amazing. I mean, thank you. You know, it's a privilege to hear you understand and express it like that, and for me be able to get it. And it's in terms of the people I've been speaking to this week. I mean, it's just so relevant.
it's amazing, eh? Without if you look at the world around us and you say people who are trying to do tshuva and people who are trying to improve themselves without this piece of information, without this knowledge, what is the plan?
You just keeping running in the same wrong direction.
Yeah, even if it's towards Hashem, it's still I don't know. Like, how can you do it without Rabbeinu to tell us this? And this is essentially what Rosh Hashana is about, right? When Rabbeinu says, "Rosh Hashana sheli wala kol," when Rabbeinu says, "Kol ha'inyan sheli hu Rosh Hashana," all my entire thing is Rosh Hashana, and then Rabbi Natan goes to explain what Rosh Hashana is about, and he uses this terminology. That's what Rosh Hashana is. Rosh Hashana is this moment. It's these 2 days are where essentially a holiday that's designated to teach us to stop. That's what Rosh Hashanah is about, and he supports it with the halachas around Rosh Hashanah, and like we spoke about the vidui, there's no confession, there's no talking. Confession is already moving on. I want to fix my mistake. Don't go there. Stop. What relish in the moment and the recognition of who you are. And the shofar is essentially what? You're crying out. You're crying out because you've become aware of your situation and then you're dealing with it. You're dealing with that awareness. That's it. You're not trying to fix it. You're not trying to move on. You're in that moment and that's what it's all about. And that's what Rabbeinu is all about. That's what he's all about as a movement or what is he bringing to the world is essentially this. He's bringing to this world that this is how you shift. This is how you exist. There's entire platforms of millions and billions of people in the world that are all trying to exist. They're all trying to feel a sense of I exist, right? But it's all within the realm of damim. Facebook, Instagram, whatever people are using, it's all within the realm of damim. And it's never that real existence. And once Rabbeinu and Rabbi Natan enter the picture, people internally want the real thing. And they're not going to rest until they get a taste from it. Until Rabbeinu and Rabbi Natan, people would settle for whatever. But once Rabbeinu entered the picture, now he brought with him the real thing. So now the world is looking for the real thing. So the second the real thing exists, the world is looking for the real thing. And whether it's Jews, non-Jews alike, everyone, we're all looking for real existence. And the real existence is Aleph. That cannot happen as long as we're in the damim. So this simple line, the Rabbeinu says, "Ikar tshuva yishma bizono yidom v'yishtok," is so fundamental. It's crucial. It's crucial. It's essentially facing yourself is the key to feeling like you exist. It's amazing. It's amazing what Rabbeinu was telling us. It's amazing.
Yeah.
All right.
Can you send this to John?
Yeah, sure. I'll download it and I'll send it to him. Absolutely. Yeah.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much.
That was amazing. All right.
I'm glad we did this one.
Yeah. All
Have a
right.
good week.
You too.
Beautiful.
Bye.